Okay, I'm here today with my good friend Angela Donley. Angela and I have no idea when we met. I usually start these with how we met, but you and I met probably working for Oklahoma Family Network together. I'm sure maybe before that. I don't know. It was a while back.
I don't know. I just feel like I've always known you at this point.
I know that's
So
what everybody's like. I just kind of feel like I've always known you, and that's true. I know there was a point somewhere that we met. Angela and I get into trouble at conferences together. She's kind of we are I don't know. We get into trouble. But that's okay. It's good. It's all in fun, and sometimes you have to make fun of some of those places just because. So, um, anyways, Angela, you are we couldn't figure out your title, but you work for the Oklahoma Family Network.
I do.
Yeah. How long have you done that?
Gosh, I think I started in maybe like 8 or 9 years ago now.
Okay,
I
and you
started
were 12
working.
then, right?
Exactly. I was very young.
Okay. Uh, tell your. I know you're an advocate. You're a mother. You have worked for the Oklahoma Family Network. I don't. You. I mean, like a lot of other advocates and people with the Oklahoma Family Network, you wear many hats. What's your story? How did you get started?
I guess I got started because of Jackson, really. My husband and I have one son. His name's Jackson. He's 14. He'll be a freshman in high school next year, which seems crazy to me. Um, and when we both went, Steve and I both went to Texas A&M and graduated, and then we ended up moving up here because he's oil field stuff, and so we got transferred to Oklahoma. And I actually worked at the newspaper in advertising right when I first got here. And then when I had Jackson, I quit to be a stay-at-home mom, and really enjoyed that. And he was our first kid. I didn't have really anything to compare him to, so everything he did seemed completely normal to me. Um, and he finally got old enough for a Mother's Day Out program, and that's when they had started seeing some of the things that he was doing that wasn't, like the other kids and things like that. And they were the ones that actually suggested that I call Sooner Start and have him, kind of um, just for them to kind of evaluate him and see maybe if he wasn't meeting some of his milestones and stuff like that. So he did qualify for Sooner Start, and we started speech and OT and all that fun stuff. And I still remember our speech path from Sooner Start. We're still Facebook friends and stuff. And in later years, she told me, I knew Jackson had autism the first day I walked into your house, but I just knew you weren't ready to hear that yet. So that was kind of how we started that way. And it just kind of grew into diagnosing and accepting. And now I think his biggest problem half the time is he has only child syndrome, and he's kind of rotten. But pair that with the little teenage attitude is super fun. So it just kind of grew from there. And once we figured out, we were going down that path, just trying to learn everything I could, go to all the conferences, all the different things. I got connected with the support parent at Oklahoma Family Network, which is kind of how I ended up going down that path. He went to an autism preschool. At that time, it was a pilot program called Early Foundations. He was the first kid that actually started there in OKC. So I learned a lot through their parent stuff, through the network, just trying to learn everything I could. And somehow it just snowballed and turned into a job in advocacy.
It's crazy how that happens. I still haven't told my story because I want to tell it when I get Joni on here. But that's it. It's crazy. It just happens. If you are outspoken and you are a parent that wants to learn and wants to help, it just happens. So I think it's pretty neat.
Wasn't really planned for sure. It just kind of
Yeah.
one day you look back and it's like, whoa, I've been actually getting paid for doing this for years now. Like, when did that happen?
Yeah. I always tell people I wasn't supposed to do this. 10 years ago, I was on the road in a band. I was going to be a rock star.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so this
I have a
was,
degree in agriculture. Like,
yeah, for
what
me.
are we doing, Cody?
Well, and it's funny you said you worked in advertising. I was a journalist for years too before this. So
Oh yeah, I don't think I knew that.
yeah.
That's fun.
Um, anyways, so tell us about Jackson. What's he like?
He is just a stinky teenage boy right now. He's come a long way though. I'm really proud of him. Um, his diagnosis was just classic autism at the time he got his first diagnosis. And, they always like to add fun stuff later to, keep that going. So it was classic autism. Um, and looking back, I can totally see it knowing what I know now. But at the time, I just thought he didn't talk and he needed some speech and we'd be good to go. But he's, I would say he's verbal, but he's not conversational. He can, ask for what he wants. He can tell you some things that he needs, things like that. But you could ask him, how was your day at school? And he would say, no, thank you. Or, did you have a good day? Yes. Did you go to the moon? Yes. He's not grasping that piece yet, but hopefully we'll get there one day for more conversational, but he can sure as heck say, I want goldfish or I want Cheez-Its. So that part I think he's doing well on for wants and needs. He really likes middle school because he's terrified of babies. I have no idea where this fear of babies came from, but he's like he's so scared of babies. Um, for other reasons.
Yeah, don't want any more.
So I think when he got to middle school and there wasn't anybody really baby looking or younger than him, he did really well and he enjoyed it. And he really liked, I was, after partners too, and going through, you've been through partners, so you know how you kind of exit and you're just like so gung-ho everything, and was like, my kid is never going to be the token kid with disability shopping cart wrangler and grocery sacker. He's not going to be that kid that puts cookies in a bag in the cafeteria, which is, all I saw growing up for kids with special needs. And of course, life is very funny to you in some ways. And his absolute favorite part of the day is his cafeteria job. It's the only reason he goes to school is he wants to do cafeteria job. So I'm like, hey, whatever, that makes you happy. He loves it. So we're really working on cafeteria job.
Like
But
you said,
he likes it.
yeah, like you said, it makes him happy. So why, why
He
mess
loves it. So he's made me rethink a lot of my opinions and the way I go about things too. And he does really well. Of course, we got the diagnosis, which was a little bit harder down the line, where we learned, autism and intellectual disability. So that was kind of a little jut off the path. And then, we kind of get back to it and figure out how he can learn better and all that. So I would say, like, he can read, he can write, he can do it. He just doesn't want to. So I think they always think I'm the mean mom and IEPs and stuff, but I'm like, you guys, he can do this. You just have to make him, like, don't let him trick you. He can be kind of shady and he'll work you over. So he's a sneaky little thing, but he can totally do it.
Yeah, I think it's funny how manipulative kids. I see kids on the spectrum are really manipulative. They know how much they can get away with and how much they can get other people to do for them if you let them. Do you find that to be true?
Yes, he totally does. Dwayne Howe that has his triplets. We speak on a bunch of parent panels together sometimes for teacher trainings. I think Jen was in the last one that we did. And we always say that, like, our kids will be so, like, up with their, their sweet paras who just want to help. And we've had the best luck with all of our paras, and they're loving and they love him and they're kind and they're just great people. And he works them over. he'll just be like, just look at him like, oh yeah, I love you, I can do this. And, then they do it for him. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. And it was more in elementary school too, that he was just like, I can do it. And I'm like, no, he's not sweet like that. Like, make him do his stuff. And Dwayne will always say, like, his kids will be like, I love you. And then they're like, oh, and then they get out of everything. So
Yeah, Connor was the same way, and I've said this in a previous interview. I can't remember who I was talking to, but I always tell parents, your job is to work yourself out of a job, make them as independent as
yeah.
possible, and a lot of them forget that, and they just want to overdo things for them, and that's not going to help. Sorry. So, tell me a little bit about your job with Oklahoma Family Network, and do you have some other things outside of that you work on?
Yeah, I feel like I do a little bit of everything, I guess. I'm usually in our office on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Obviously, we're home now, but usually I'm in the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you call, you usually get me answering the phone, just trying to help whoever's on that other end of the line find a resource or get connected to something that they need to. I have a great group of parents who have kids with autism. If a parent wants to talk to another parent that has a kid with autism, a newly diagnosed something, I don't feel like I've been in the game this long and I'm old, but when these younger parents and they just have a newly diagnosed kid, they don't want to talk to me that has a 14-year-old. They want to talk to, a mom that has like a 5-year-old, something closer. And I like to try to match people and just, give them that sense of support that I had. So it's just kind of, helping whoever ends up calling, whether it's a parent or a professional, try to find what they need, get them the information they need. If it's something for school, heck, I usually end up calling you and asking and making sure that I know what I'm talking about.
That's scary because I don't always know what I'm talking about either, but.
So just trying to get them connected and help them, feel not so alone too. I do a lot of resource fairs, the Autism Walk booth, conferences. You and I do that. Presentations. I do a lot of parent panels, just sharing our story during trainings for teachers or paras. I took Wanda's old seat on the Oklahoma Commission for Children and Youth as the voice for parents with kids with disabilities in Oklahoma. So trying to just bring that voice to the table on that commission. I used to sit on the Sooner Start Interagency Council, but I think when your kid gets 12, I think is when you age out. So those younger families come back in, which is great because they're more fresh out of it than we were. And our Sooner Start experience looked very different than kind of the way they're working it now. So I think that's good. I do that. I did partners in policy making. That was amazing. I did LEND, which is just an interdisciplinary leadership and education and neurodevelopmental disabilities, to try to bring that voice of a family who has a kid with a disability to, young professionals or people that are in that health science field getting their degrees on how to work with families and family-centered care.
Yeah, Wanda's been trying to get me on that. You and I might talk about that when we get done. So yeah,
you'll be good at it.
Yeah, but you've got your hands in a lot of stuff, and I always tell people when I have a question autism related, you're my first call.
That's scary.
You or Renee Damon. It just depends on what the situation is, but you guys are my two go-tos for autism related questions, and it never seems to fail that you're like me. I always tell people I don't know everything, but I know people who do know things. So
exactly,
know how to
find an answer for sure.
That's right. So with that, who are your mentors? Who were your mentors when especially when you got started?
Well, when I first got started, I had a support parent, and her name was Jeannie Chambers, and she was amazing. She saved my sanity many times over. Once I started getting a little bit more deep into things, Joni and Heather always have been. They're amazing. Anything disability related, getting me connected. Um, Londa is probably one of my biggest mentors. Um, I would love to be Wanda when I grow up. She's amazing. She knows everything. She can do
Wanda's
all kinds of stuff.
Wanda's kind of everybody's hero, and she was my first guest. I said when I started this, I said I have to have Wanda on. That was my first.
I mean, she just has this perfect way of explaining things so you can understand and making you come to the right answers. And I don't know, she's just amazing. And
Don't you love how she goes? Now here's what I want you to do. That's how she starts a conversation. Here's what I want you to do, and I'm always, crap, I've got homework now.
I know, I'm like, no, I don't want to figure this out. Just tell me. And it's a process. And I think that I always talk with my hands now because I've been around her too much. And so I'm always everything. I love her. Just anyone I can learn from. I mean, I just want to suck all that knowledge in. There's so much that I feel that I do know, but so much that I don't. You obviously, I get a lot of information out of you. So, I mean, and we do presentations together and stuff. And every time I think that we do, or I talk to you at a conference and we're sharing our table or something, I feel like I learned something new from you, or something that I've been telling people. And I'm like, oh crap, that was wrong.
Not necessarily. It's almost like the blind leading the blind with us. So
Hey, we had a really good turnout at our last breakout session.
we did, and I don't know if they walked away with better knowledge or scared to death. They may have been scared. I don't know.
Probably a healthy mix of both.
No, that's a good list of mentors though, and it's a lot of mine. I didn't think about Jeannie. I keep making my list longer. I've got this list of people that I want to do these interviews with, and Jeannie may go on my list there, and Dwayne. I don't know him. I've heard him at a conference, but I don't know him, so I may get his information, see if he'll do
Yeah.
it. But this, yeah, it's crazy the network that you create when you start doing this. You know, I've talked about this on previous interviews, but you just start meeting these people, and
Yeah.
everybody wants to help each other. You know, somebody had mentioned this before, there's no jealousy in this field, or very little if there is any. I've never seen it, but we want to help. I mean, everything that I've gotten is because I've met people, and they said, you need to do this, and you need to do this to help, and it's just amazing. You know?
Yeah, it really is. I think we've got a really great network here in Oklahoma, between parents and professionals, that, you know, we can go with different groups, and there's not as much, because I think in a lot of ways autism can kind of be tough to navigate than some of the other disabilities, because you have the high functioning people, and then you have the low functioning people, and then you have the biomed people, or the vaccine people, or, you know, and it's just, it can be very divided. And I feel like in Oklahoma we've done a pretty good job with that, on supporting each other no matter what our autism functioning level is.
Yeah. Do you feel? I always tell people we have the same needs. It doesn't matter what level, if you want to level things, if you want to compare.
Right.
So the amount may be more or less, but the needs are all there. Do you feel that's true? I mean,
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I mean, I know half the kids in Jackson's class, they need, you know, they work in their planners, for example, like in scheduling and keeping track of their own stuff. And, you know, Jackson's might look more like a PEC's visual schedule. And then, you know, another kids might just write down what he needs to do that day or something, you know, but they all need the same kind of support around specific areas of life for sure. And how they get there or what that looks like can be different, more support, less support. But I mean, they all need basically the same thing, just
Yeah. And
different.
we as parents need the same supports too. I mean, no matter what. So I would agree with that. You know, what is the best advice you've ever received? And what advice do you normally give? What's kind of your go-to advice for parents?
Um, I usually just like to remind people, like, we're all in this together. We all are going to get where we're going. It may take us different points of, how we get there. And just keep the humor. I mean, some days, I know, like if you just don't laugh, some days you're just gonna, melt into a puddle of crying mess. But I mean, some days you just gotta laugh and throw your hands in the air and just be like, okay, but it is what it is. We'll start again tomorrow. But I think if you don't kind of keep that humor in it, then you would just be banging your head against the wall all day long some days. But our kids are funny. Like, they're so funny and quirky, and to just celebrate it and not necessarily try to streamline it, or I don't know, maybe I'm not using the right words, but just keep the humor, and keep in contact with each other. We're all here for each other. If you're having a crappy day, call me. We'll have a Zoom wine happy hour and talk about our kids.
That's not a bad idea. We may come up with that. I need a parent support group meeting soon, so we may come up with that happy hour.
This interview at night, so we could have had a cocktail.
We can always mute the people that start to
Sure.
back a little bit. So I liked it. You know what, you said the humor. That's what I like about you, is that you always find the humor, and I can't wait when we go to conferences, because you and I usually set up a booth together, and I can't wait for Jackson's stories, because they're so funny. Which, I try to share Connor, but it seems like for some reason yours, maybe it's the delivery seems to
Maybe,
be. I don't know.
It's a mess, but you've got some good Connor ones too.
Yeah, and that's I agree with you. You've gotta laugh at, because there's so much. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot more stress involved, and I don't know. I mean, I've got Cruz too, who, God, I love him, but I always tell people if I'd have had him first, I might not have had a second one. So he's an awesome kid, but he's definitely he's me. He's just like me when I was a kid, and
Payback.
not too long ago, I went to my parents and I just said, "Look, I'm so sorry." Because this is exactly how I acted. I know that now. The thing was, we didn't get diagnosed with ADHD at the time. We were just a pain in the butt, and so that's kind of where I'm at with him. He is exactly like me, and that's turned into a bad thing lately, because he's turned into a little jerk like me. So
Nice.
yeah, we'll talk about some of those stories next time we meet. But I just want to say,
Well, look how great he'll be up.
What's that?
Look how great he'll be when he grows up. He's gonna be like you, so you're good to go.
Depends on if you ask my wife or not. I want to say that I appreciate your friendship, and you're one of my mentors. I think it's funny that you said that to me, because I constantly am going to you for advice, and it. But I'm also going to you for the comic relief, because it's just like you said, we've got to laugh sometimes, or else, I mean, you'll go crazy. So.
Well, I love doing conferences and stuff because we get to hang out. So you're way out and Never Neverland. I never get to see you unless it's a conference or a meeting.
Listen, I invite people to Poto all the time, and nobody takes me up on it. I don't know. But no, I have to go to Oklahoma City. So, all right. Well, thank you again for your time, and we will.
Thank you. I feel honored to be grouped in with some other people that you've interviewed because I feel like I'm not on their level. So thanks.
Not at all.